Once upon a time, not so very long ago, there was a plane in flight over the Pacific Ocean on its way to Asia. It was a beautiful night. The plane was just starting to settle down. You know, people had eaten their supper and that had been all cleaned up. The movies were over. The lights were dim. People were starting to go to sleep for the night. You could hear people snoring and snuffling and adjusting in their seats like people do who have been sitting for way too long. And in the cockpit, unbeknownst to almost anyone, all the navigation systems went dark. The pilot, the flight engineer, they were working all the systems, trying to figure out what was going on. There was no communication, there was no navigation, there was not even autopilot, nothing. Here they are, hurtling through the sky at a speed they didn't even know, in a direction they weren't even sure of. What country were they flying over? What was going on? They didn't know. They worked as hard as they could to figure it out, and when it was clear that they weren't going to figure it out, they very discreetly said to the stewards and stewardesses, just go out and see if anyone on the plane has any electrical or engineering experience. Discreetly. Just go see. Took a really long time. But finally a woman came into the cockpit and the pilot said, great, what do you know? Are you an electrical engineer? Are you an electrician? What are you doing here? And she said, well, what exactly is the problem? The guy's like, wait a minute. You don't have any electrical engineering experience? The problem's right there in front of you. The entire panel is dark. We don't know where we're flying. We don't know what we're doing. Okay, that's the problem. Can you help us or not? And the woman said, you know, I think I can. I have a fail-safe method. It has never failed me. In all the years I've used it, it has always worked. They're like, what? What is it? What might this method be? And she said, well, the stars, of course. The heavens. The heavens will guide us. If you have charts and maps for the stars and where we are, I'll get you to where we're going. She was an astronomer. For the next 5 hours, she sat next to the pilot with the charts on her lap, calmly guiding, calmly advising. And they were so impressed by her deep knowledge of the stars, by her obvious love and appreciation of the heavens, and by her calm and measured spirit. And in the morning, just as the dawn was rising, they touched down in the right airport at the right time, with only very few people knowing how close disaster had come. So that's from my Megan McKenna book on Easter, and it tells us everything we need to know about today. That sometimes we just need to stop thinking and start believing, right? Sometimes we have to realize that God is offering us a solution right in front of our faces, and we just have to say yes. I mean, who'd have thought that pilots, a stewardess, and an astronomer could save hundreds of people on a plane, right? But God knew. And sometimes we just have to believe. We have to realize, we have to remember over and over again that we are finite, that we are limited, and we do not like to be limited. That's like one of our idolatries, is to believe that we can be and do anything. But it's simply not true. The only thing that can be or do anything is God. God is infinite. God is majestic. God is awesome. God is every huge and wonderful and ununderstandable thing. And God is always saying to us, you have to believe that I am uncontainably more. I am more. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why we hold up the Trinity. Because it helps us to see God still finitely in our own finite way. It helps us to see the relationships and the facets of God that are so much more than we can imagine. The Trinity is 3 persons, 1 unity. It's a mystery. Don't spend too much time worrying about it. It's not something we'll ever completely understand. But it does help us to know the immensity of God and how God is present to us and how we can pray and work with God in so many different ways. So the first person of the Trinity that we hold up is God the Creator. Right? Some of us might say God the Father. This is the person of the Trinity who loved us into being, who has known us from the beginning of time through eternity, created us just as we are, perfectly in God's image, who made the rules and enforces them, and is who we make our vows to in our baptism, that we promise to seek and serve and to love eternally. And because God loved us so much, and because God wanted to truly show us what love is all about, God contained God's self, God emptied God's self, and became human like us. And that is the second person of the Trinity, of this unity of the Trinity, Jesus. Jesus, our brother. Jesus, our friend. Jesus, our example, our mentor. The person who showed us what love can be, what life can be when it is filled with love, who experienced the things that we did, pain and sorrow and disappointment and frustration and anger and loneliness and abandonment, who experienced all those things that we struggle with, and so completely understands, and so can be our guide in how to love our way through the hard times in our lives. And then the third person of the Trinity, of this unity of God, is the Holy Spirit. We celebrated the Holy Spirit last week in Pentecost. And in Hebrew, the word for spirit is ruach, and it's feminine. So I like to think of her as she, even though that's maybe a little heretical. The Holy Spirit, of course, is the one who is with us now and always, who is in our hearts, opening our eyes to the needs of the world, comforting us, advocating for us, and pushing us into all the things that God needs us to do, equipping us and accompanying us into the world to do the work that we've been given. 3 persons, 1 unity, all equal and yet relatable in different ways, there for us in our various needs, joys, and sorrows. We don't need to think about the how, because we don't know. What we need to think about is opening our hearts to accepting all that God can be for us, all the infiniteness of God, and taking that love that we experience when we do that right out that door into the world.